Hello, my name is Courtney, and today we are doing another themed reading vlog, which will be a continuation of using my stats to prompt what I read. On this last episode of using my stats, I used my overall stats from 2022 as a guide to figure out what types of books I was going to read. Again, that is a whole separate video. Definitely recommend watching that to kind of get some background stuff on that. But basically, I was taking the highest stats for what kind of genre I'm reading, the book length, the format, the publisher, the age range, the year it was published. I'm using all of those stats to kind of curate a reading list of books that I've been interested in, trying to see, I guess, if my reading stats are how I read. Because of my reading stats, that reading vlog ended up being very focused on a couple YA novels. There was a lot of sci-fi fantasy elements, a lot of stuff that was published recently, and overall had a very 300 to 400 page count range. So for part 2, we're going to be using the stats from what I listed as my favorite books of the year and do a kind of compare and contrast, just seeing if there's a difference between my overall stats and my favorite stats. For my favorites, I'm always trying to pick obviously my favorite books of the year, but there is a little bit of curation. I feel like you have to do that as a booktuber. It just happens. The other thing that I specifically do when I make my favorites of the year is that I tend not to include manga, even though I love my mangas, but I've been reading these series for years. I've talked about them for many years before. They don't really need to be included. I'm trying to make a list of new favorites. So let us discuss what were the books that I had on my favorites of the year. Of course, you can check out my favorite of the year video as well as my honorable mentions, all of that stuff. I will do a little summary. I listed 400 Souls, which was my favorite nonfiction of the year. She Who Became the Sun, which is an adult fantasy. Kiss Her Once for Me, which is an adult contemporary. Spinning, which is a graphic memoir, Empress's Salt and Fortune, and When the Tiger Comes Down the Mountain, which are short fantasy novellas. Winter of the Witch, which to me was a very much a standout in the fantasy genre as well as a standout of that series. She Drives Me Crazy, which was a YA contemporary. A Song for the Wild Bill, and A Prayer for the Crown Shy, which is a novella duology. The Galaxy and the Ground Within, which is the final book in the Wayfarers series. Harrow the Ninth, which was the second book in the Gideon of the Ninth series. If We Were Villains, which was a adult thriller. Grey Warren, which was the final book in the Dreamers trilogy, which is a spinoff of the Raven Boys. And then I also have Middle Game, which is a standalone, it's now been continued into a series, but it was originally a standalone contemporary paranormal fantasy, I guess. And I did end up ordering these, putting them in an order, and I believe my top picks for the year were A Psalm for the Wild Bill, Harrow the Ninth, and I know my favorite book for sure was Empress's Salt and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain. So let's look at the stats boiled down. I had 1 nonfiction, 1 memoir, so 2 nonfiction reads, 2 contemporary reads, 1 mystery, and 8 sci-fi fantasies. It's very obvious which way I'm leaning with my favorites. I had 10 adult novels as my favorite and 3 YA novels as my favorite, so very different than last time's stats. It's leaning very heavy sci-fi fantasy and it's leaning very heavy adult. 2 of the books were starting new series and 6 of them were continuing series. How many of these books were finishing series is the big question. Grey Warren was a finishing book. The Galaxy and the Ground Within was a finishing book. Psalm for the Wild Bill was a finishing book. Winter of the Witch was a finishing book. Okay, so it was only 4 books that were last books in a series. For page length, I had 2 books that were 100 to 200 pages. I counted the series together, I didn't add up Psalm for the Wild Bill and Prayer for the Crown Shot. I just counted them as one, so 2 100 to 200 length series. 4 books that were 300 to 400 pages, which was my highest stat last time. 4 books that were 400 to 500 pages, and then 2 books that were over 500 pages. For publishers, I had One World, Tor, Ataria, First Second, Tor again, Penguin, Roaring Books, Tor again, Harper Voyager, Tor again, Flatrian, Scholastic, and then Tor again. So Tor was my biggest publisher of the year. And for pub dates, I had 1 that was published in 2017, 2 that were published in 2019, 5 that were published in 2021, and 2 that were published in 2022. So for these stats, I'm trying to get books that fit the prompts as much as I can. So last time I felt like I was a lot more more strict about the percentage stuff, and this time it's more based on feeling, trying to pick books that feel in the same veins as things that I gave really high ratings to last year. I definitely use the prompts as we will see, but there is a lot more like gut feeling usage. So what did I end up picking? There's a lot of books that I wanted to pick, a lot of good stuff out there, but I was trying to pick books that I didn't know tons about, that I was interested in, books that fit these prompts again. So for the first one, I picked Lost in the Moment and Found. This, I guess, is kind of my Atlas paradox of this round. This is a continuation of a series that I've read from an author that I've read before from, and this series is honestly, I wouldn't say hit or miss for me because I do like all the books, but some of them are 3 stars and some of them are 5 stars. I'm hoping for a 5-star because we haven't had one for me personally in a little bit, but I've heard great things, so I'm very optimistic. But this, I believe, is the 8th book in the Shauna McGuire Wayward Children's series. This is following a character that we've seen before, but who has been a side character, and she is in a world where she is kind of a wayward point between different worlds, and I believe there's something about objects. This is a lot smaller than ones we've seen recently, so that's intriguing, but yes, this fits the page count. It's like that 100 to 200 page range. I was reading, again, a lot of novellas that I really enjoyed, so I was really pushing to put novellas on the list. It's adult fantasy, and it's from Tor, fitting a lot of prompts with that. The next book I picked, again, for that novella range was To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. So far, I have loved everything that Becky Chambers has written, but this is going to be a wild card because it is a standalone, not connected to any of her other series, but published by Harper Voyager, which was on my favorites. It's a novella, it's sci-fi fantasy. Again, it's by Becky Chambers, who had 3 books on my favorites list last year, but yeah, fit in the prompts and excited to read it. And so let's go over the 2 books that are kind of like new to me, as in I haven't read anything by these authors, and so it's kind of a wild card. So I had a couple contemporaries on that list, and Kiss Her Once for Me especially was just really a surprising novel for me. So I wanted to pick up something else in that vein. I want to read more adult romance. I'm trying to love it. I haven't loved it so far, except Kiss Her Once for Me, which honestly a very controversial pick for me because a lot of people do not like it. I could have picked Alison Corcoran's other book, but I was trying again to pick something that I haven't read from before. I wanted something that I know has a lot of buzz, a lot of love, and again fits into the 300 to 400 page count. And so for that, I picked Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is from a different publisher than Kiss Her Once for Me, which publisher is not my main important stat, I think, but it fits a lot of the other stats. I've heard great buzz about this. She is going back to her hometown, doesn't really want to be there, and starting her first gay relationship with a woman for the first time. Yeah, so I'm intrigued. I'm hoping I like it. We will see. And then the final book that I picked is one that's been on my TBR since it came out. I've been trying to get it on my reading list. I've been trying to put it on so many of my reading vlog videos for so long, and so I finally got it for this one, and that would be Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki, and this is adult sci-fi fantasy. It's in that 300 to 400 page range. It's queer, which it's a big stat for me. Of course, we have some more Tor publishing. Can't forget about Tor. But yes, I'm really intrigued by my stats because the books that I ended up picking, not a lot of them fit into necessarily tropes that I really reach for. I love fantasy, especially more so than sci-fi, but I ended up reading a lot of sci-fi that I gave really high ratings to last year. I like coming of age stories. Don't know or think any of these are. I was reading so much more adult last year, dipping my toes into genres and wouldn't necessarily pick up if I was reading the back of the book. So like, I'm hoping to love all these, hoping that they're all 5 stars. My first book stats was based off of what's safe for me, what I know I'm gonna like. This reading stats are based off of what I'm slowly transitioning to, how my reading tastes are changing, I guess. And so hopefully we have some winners, especially because my adult sci-fi fantasy choice for the last round ended up being just a total wash. It just did not work out. The Atlas Paradox ended up being like a 2.5 star read for me. So we're looking for some 5-star sci-fi fantasies really this time around, and also hoping to like some more contemporary queer romance. So yes, let us begin the reading vlog. So I'm getting ready for work, which is like the only time I have today to film. So basically, let me tell you what's going on. I filmed that intro a little while ago because I was trying to get filming done before my friends came to visit me. Basically, I had a vacation, or I planned a vacation where I was the destination. So I played hostess for a week and showed my friends around California, went to Disneyland, all kinds of fun things. And now I am going back to work and I feel like there's a lot going on. And also, I'm finally actually starting to read the books for this reading challenge. I'm going to start with Delilah Green, which is an adult romance. And it's basically about a woman named Delilah Green. She's like about 30, late 20, somewhere in there. And she is being called back to be a photographer for her stepsister's wedding. Her stepsister and her stepmother and her do not get along. They've been kind of estranged from each other. And as a photographer who's trying to make it big in the art world, Delilah is tight on money, you know, living in New York City, not getting enough gigs to survive, so she needs this wedding. She doesn't want to go back to her hometown. She doesn't want to interact with these people who made her feel miserable in her childhood. But that's how it's got to be to get what she needs to survive. And then meanwhile, because I believe it is dual point of view from what I've researched, Claire is one of Delilah Green's stepsister's best friends. And she is a single mom. She had her kid when she was 18, 19, somewhere in that range. And it's just juggling like preteen, being a single mom, all of that, along with this like very stressful wedding. And I think there's going to be a lot of hijinks. I think people don't want Delilah Green's stepsister, who I believe her name is Astrid. They don't want her to marry the dude she's with. So it's gonna cause a whole bunch of hijinks from there. So yes, I will let you know how the book goes, and then we can like get more depth, discuss all of that. Another update while I get ready for work. I finished Delilah Green in a day. I finished it so quickly. Book was just exactly what I like in romance. The characters had some past stuff with each other. So there was banter, there was like a little bit of angst, a little hate to love, but also like attraction. I loved how the author handled like the misunderstandings between the two, since they did like grow up together. I loved like the falling out, like the third act breakup misunderstanding too, because like it felt really realistic. Like there was kind of a big blow up between certain characters, but not really the love interest. To both of them, it just seemed like the relationship fizzled out, and it was really just like a misunderstanding of like not knowing how to approach the situation after those characters blew up at each other. I don't know, I just thought it was really well done. Like the characters were super messy, you know, the figuring stuff out in their life, and along with that, they like were dealing with like their own problems. Like both of them had like their own stuff going on, and that is just my jam. I have a hard time reading like straight ooey gooey romance. It doesn't really do it for me. So this was like completely perfect. Like it was just everything I love. I think I have to give it a 5-star. Like I just loved the characters. I loved all the side characters. I loved how everything went down, all of that. There wasn't really anything that I didn't love. I don't know, I just really fell with these characters in this world, and I am so excited to read the next book because like I love Delilah and Claire, but Astrid is the bitch character. You know she's gonna end up probably being my favorite because she's, you know, uptight, and on top of that she's like cheerleader popular girl, ex energy, high school energy. She wasn't a cheerleader, but like, you know what I mean, like ex high school popular girl turned lesbian, femme lesbian, like type A, like bitchy character. One of my favorite tropes. So I'm really excited to see how everything goes forward, and especially excited to see how like Isabel, Astrid's mother, is dealt with in the second book, because I'm very intrigued. Also because we know that Astrid is going to end up with a woman in the next book. I'm really excited to see if it was like, you know, if she's bi, or if it was like repressed sexuality on her part. Because in this book, to me, especially like with how she dealt with her soon-to-be fiance, like it very much felt like either like really repressed sexual stuff, or like even on the aro A spectrum. I don't think she is, because I think it's going to be spicy again in the next book, but I am fully committed. I'm fully excited. Don't know when I'm going to get to that, but I'm excited for that book. I'm excited for the one after with Iris. Just, again, I love this whole cast. I like this whole, like, Oregonian, like, small town with all these lesbians in it and all these gay people in it. It's just chef kiss perfect. So we're starting off this reading vlog very strong. I found like a new favorite romance contemporary, proving to myself that I can like romance. Is just like the first one I read was a dud for me personally, which is good because I do have a lot on my list that I want to read. If it were possible to read every single gay romance in existence, like that would be my goal in life. So I'm glad I know at least like a couple at least. Going forward, where are we at? We have 3 books to read, and we have a problem. Tears of the Kingdom came out in the time that it took me to update you about Delilah Green, and I'm in deep, you know, like I am fully committed to that game right now. And so luckily 2 of the books are like short novellas, but I have to like find the time and make myself read when I don't want to be reading. I don't know what's gonna happen. I knew this was coming. I knew this was gonna happen. But yeah, it just snuck up on me and I couldn't finish the rest of the books in time. I will give you an update when I am back to reading. Right now I'm just taking a little break because I've tried to read a couple books and I just like had to put them down because I just could not get into them. Like they were just not interesting me. All I want to think about is Tears of the Kingdom. So that's my update. Ashton Parker, 5 out of 5, perfect sapphic romance. And I'm ready, hopefully, to read something next from the list. So I've been very tired from this week for a lot of reasons, namely Tears of the Kingdom, but also I'm the only one home while my parents are on a trip, so I'm taking care of my dog, and he's just very demanding, very needy. You know, he's 15 and a half. And I'm also like slowly transitioning into a full-time position at work, getting used to the 40-hour work week and just like 8 hours a day and like manual labor. It is exhausting. So like there's a lot going on, you know, so little sleep mixed with like hard work, you know, it makes you tired. But today I was able to finish my second book for this reading vlog, which is Lost in the Moment and Found. And it was picked on the basis of it being a novella, being an author that I had read previously from a series I like. There's a lot of things going for this, even the publisher, and I like this. I want to give it like a 4 out of 5 stars. It's like not my favorite in the series, but it's still really good. I would have to do a reread to like say which ones are my favorites, but like for now I would say Down Among the Sticks and Bones first, obviously, then maybe the 4th one where we have, or is it the 5th one where we have this Down Amongst the Sticks and Bones as main characters again. Wait, there's gotta be a picture list in this one. Okay, yeah. So my favorite books in order would be, we'll go from the bottom up. So my least favorite is Beneath the Sugar Sky, followed by Across the Greengrass Fields, then Where the Drowned Girls Go. I like the beginning of that one, but not really the middle ending. From there, my favorite is Every Heart a Doorway, then Come Tumbling Down, then In an Absent Dream, and then Down Among the Sticks and Bones. So Down Among the Sticks and Bones, In an Absent Dream, and Come Tumbling Down are like my top favorite, and I really do love Every Heart a Doorway as well. So basically, in the Wayward Children's series, we are following a set of characters who go to this magical school that's set in our world. This school is not really magical, it just has these kids in it who have been transported to magical societies and have come back to their world, and for one reason or another they want to go back to their world, they don't, but for whatever reason they're not fitting into the regular world anymore, or you know, they have been changed by their experience being transported away to these portal worlds to the point where they are now seen as like problem children by their parents, where they just don't fit in anymore. For better or worse, they find this school where they can essentially be themselves and don't have to fight against society's expectations of who they're supposed to be. And in this installment we are following Antoinette, who is a character we met in the previous book, and in this series it's like every odd number is following the present day storyline at the Wayward house, and then every even book is following in the world settings in the magical society. I guess it is evenly split. My 2 absolute favorites are set in portal worlds, and my 3rd and 4th favorite are books that happen in the present modern day. So a good mix. And so like this one fits right in there, and it is one that takes place in a portal world. So follows Antoinette, who we've seen before, and in her world she is kind of at a nexus, which is a very special world that we haven't seen yet, where basically she is in a world that opens up into other worlds. So she meets people who are coming into her world, and she also is able to go and travel in between worlds and then come back to her nexus world. And her world is the world of things that are lost. So basically everything that has ever been lost ends up at this place, and she is able to reunite people with things, but she's also able to go into other worlds and barter and find things back for people that they need or want to trade back for or whatever. And the reason like why I didn't love this is that I wanted more of it. I just felt like it needed a little more padding. Beginning does spend a lot of time setting up Auntie's childhood and like why she went to the world of lost things, and like I liked everything that Sean McGuire was going for, but I just needed a little more padding towards the end of the story I just felt like there should have been more. It just kind of felt a little bit abrupt. I wouldn't say it has bad writing. I think it's good writing. I like Seanan McGuire's writing, but from what I remember, this is why I feel like I need to reread these books. From what I remember, Down Among the Sticks and Bones and Naps and Dream have like more transformative writing. Or I don't know if Seanan McGuire is ever really lyrical, but I would say it just had more oomph in the writing from what I remember. Like, I remember being blown away by the prose, whereas this one I was not as blown away by. And it could just be because Ancy is a little bit younger, and so there is a more childlike tone to her voice. There are definitely moments in this that I really, really like, that like really touched me, got me a little, I wouldn't say like overly emotional, but I was definitely like feeling in my feels for parts of this. So yes, I like this. It falls like in the upper middle range. Again, it's like a 4-star, not one of my favorite 5 stars of the series, but it's really good. One of the reasons I really, really like this book in this series is because we are starting to get clues or more understanding, more world building of the world, because this world is a nexus. I never really considered the possibility that we would find out more about the doors in the world. I always thought it was just like world building that could just never be explained really. And now I'm sort of getting excited by the fact that we might get like maybe an explanation for how everything came to be. That just wasn't a possibility to me that I was thinking Seanan would do. And so I was really, really excited to see some of that in here, because it felt like very purposeful world building. Like maybe in concluding novels something will happen. I'm not sure. Like, it feels like definitely maybe we are really building towards something, which I just never thought of as a possibility for the series. But yeah, I would say this was a really strong book and definitely fulfilling my expectations for these prompts. For the first reading vlog, there was only really one dud. Everything else was really good, but like so far, these have just been so much more to my current taste, so much more to my current interest. Like the last book was like a 5 out of 5 stars, and this one was also just really good, rejuvenated my love for the series, made me kind of want to reread some of them. So yes, I feel like there is a difference using my top 10 reads of the year as prompts versus just using my overall reading stats. We have 2 books left, and unfortunately neither of them are currently available on audiobook form, so it is going to be a physical read for me unless I wait 4 weeks, which we're not going to do that. So I think I want to take a break from Breath of the Wild tonight. Like, I don't really, but I want to hang out with my dog a little bit more, focus on him tonight, and hopefully maybe try and read all of the Becky Chambers pick. We'll see. Right now I'm making my lunch for tomorrow, so that'll take a minute, and then we'll just see how the night goes. I'll probably end up just falling asleep super early, honestly. But tomorrow is Friday, and then I get my first full weekend. That is like one thing that nobody really talks about with like, even as like a part-time employee working in customer service or like any kind of low-paying blue-collar job like this, you don't have a consistent schedule unless like you really have restrictions and really nice managers, I guess. It is just really uncommon to have weekends or even just like 2 days that are always paired together for you. Like, you will get like a 2 or 3 day like weekend randomly because of scheduling, but most of the time, at least for me, I like work 6 days, get a day off, have 2 more days and then a day off. Like, it's like really, really random. And one thing I'm so happy about transitioning to my new position is that I will have a very consistent schedule, like 1 more hours, more pay. It's still a minimum wage job, but at the end of the day, it's consistent. I have set hours, I have set days that I work, so I will get a actual weekend again, and I'm just so excited for that. Like, I really miss just having 2 days dedicated and for them to be the same days every week. Very exciting stuff. So yeah, let's get into the next read, I guess. So, same old, I've been staring at my phone instead of actually reading, but I picked up the book, you know, to actually start reading it, and I forgot, but I always think this, why did they give this lady, like the butt crease in a spacesuit? Like, that isn't how pants work. Like, you know, like a spacesuit like that wouldn't work like that. Like, why? Also, like, it's not gonna be horny because this is Becky Chambers. Like, why did she need a juicy booty? I have questions. Okay, let's read it. Maybe it's integral to the plot somehow. So it is Monday once again, which means it's been a couple days since I've started this. On the first day that I started reading this, I read about 50 pages, and I really haven't read anything else since then. But this is an adult sci-fi novella, and it's following a crew of 4 people who elect to fly to this other planet. They're part of like a space program, and like in the hands of any other author, this could turn out like so horror-y, you know, like they're stuck on a ship, they have to go into stasis, they are losing years of their life. When they come back, you know, most of the people they know will either be really old or dead. They're on this like crazy planet, creatures to discover and stuff. But I have really high hopes in Becky Chamber keeping it like very slice of lifey, which it has been so far. Like there might be some trouble, but I don't think it's gonna be like a sad ending, I hope. Anyway, it's like these 4 people, it's very queer, it's very like just nice and fun so far, honestly. The spacesuit is not an accurate representation. I don't know why they have the booty cheeks out. Also, the main character shaves her head a lot, so I don't know why they gave her like this full head of hair, except like at the beginning when she like wakes up from stasis. But yeah, I was loving this. I read it so quickly. I have like 100 pages left, so it's just trying to get back into it and not fall asleep. I've just been so tired because I am really enjoying it. I'm just having a hard time focusing on it, so I need to get back into that. But anyway, besides that, it's like going great. Like I'm really enjoying this. It's just everything that I love about Becky Chambers. Like she's pretty much just an auto-buy author for me now, so like we knew this was gonna be a good one. So for you, it's been like a few seconds, but for me, it's been a minute. Like it's been a couple days. So basically, I just have been coming home from work just really tired because it's like my first 40-hour week, having to do all the house chores and take care of my dog, which is like not bad necessarily, but like, you know, I'm not living in a small apartment anymore, so just a lot to do every day. And like, you know, my dog is a senior citizen, so like I really have to like watch him and like take care of him because he's so demanding sometimes because he is a little prince. Anyway, so I have been reading To Be Taught If Fortunate. I'm actually really surprised by this because I thought it was just going to take place on one planet, but I think it actually takes place on different planets throughout the years of the space journey, and like stuff is starting to happen. And I don't want to give it away because it is short, but like I love Becky Chambers. I love this. I love short fiction. I love novellas. So like this is just panning out really well for me, but I've just been so tired from work that I haven't been reading it, but I have been reading at work. So basically at my job, I am like the manual labor receiving person. That's like the job I'm switching into. So basically like I'm in the back room doing like all the warehousey type stuff, I guess. So I am allowed to like zone out and listen to music and audiobooks. And so I tried an audiobook like last week to just like tentatively see like, you know, can I focus and do my work at the same time? Turns out more than capable of doing both at the same time if it's not like completely crazy. And so I read a couple books via audiobook, one of them being Lost in the Moment and Found. I don't know how much I talked about reading that as an audiobook, but anyway, I'm reading the last book for this readathon as an audiobook at work, and it is turning out so well. So this is Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki, and this is a really interesting book. It's like a little bit literary, a little bit sci-fi, a little bit fantasy, and like weird in a good way. It says Good Omens meets Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and like that kind of sums it up perfectly. Basically, it is about this woman who is a violin teacher who basically sells souls to the devil to like gain her own soul back, I think. And so it's her interacting and crossing paths with like all these different types of people, from her new student who she is going to, I guess, sell the soul to the devil, this person who like fixes the violin, but like also like the entire like other POVs of this novel who come into contact with her are also like space aliens from another planet who are escaping mass plague thing. So like, you know, there's like a really weird mix of stuff going on in here, and I love it. It is just so fun. It's so character driven, so like close perspective, and like there's a lot of really bad stuff that happens, especially to one of our main characters, Katrina, who is the student of basically our main character. She is a trans girl and she's just gone through a lot of crap, and so reading that is not always the most pleasant, but like there's also these really wholesome moments where she's like really well taken care of, and it's just like so heartwarming and heartbreaking almost, because she doesn't necessarily believe or think that those things are going to be given to her. It's such an excellent novel. It's so weird and fun and different. And the one thing that I'm loving while reading this as an audiobook is that it is the same audiobook narrator that did the Empress of Salt and Fortune series, and I love her. Her voice is perfect. The way that she tells the story, I don't want to say that it makes the book better, but it feels like it does. Like, she just has such a beautiful, silky, kind of deep tone, and like the way she reads is just so lyrical. It just gives so much power to the prose, and so like that is making the experience even more great. I am reading it slowly, like I'm reading it at a slower pace, like at 1.25 speed, because I'm just really enjoying the narration. But yeah, this is like a great novel, and I'm like looking at everything that I've read for this reading vlog so far, and I loved everything. I've loved everything so far. Like, nothing has been below a 4-star for me. This is all going so well. So I have 2 books to read still, but I'm halfway through both of them, and I will get through them and we will discuss. So it is finally Saturday, so I have the weekend free and I have Memorial Day off, which is really exciting. So what I planned is today I'm going to make my reading day and hopefully finish up my 2 books, and then I'll take the next 2 days to play Tears of the Kingdom. So lots of relaxing, lots of fun stuff to do, but I'm gonna get to reading and I'll let you guys know how it goes. So I finished To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers, and so yes, I have successfully completed another novel for this challenge, as well as completing all of Becky Chambers' works. I don't know if this is like, I mean, it's definitely not my favorite, but I still just love all of Becky Chambers' works so much that it's hard to like, you know, give anything less than a 4-star for her work. I'm really excited to continue reading from her in the future and just like reading her future stuff, because I love her stuff so much. Like I said, if this was written by a different person, it would be like a completely different story. Like, there are so many paths that just would have gone in so many different directions. The section that I was reading, the end, like 50 pages today, was definitely more of like the conflict-y stuff, and so like there were sections that were like more hard to read, I guess, because it's like more traumatic stuff that's happening to the characters. But overall, again, there is like that element of hope through it, and I feel like this story was definitely like one of Becky Chambers' more literary leaning stories. Like, I could definitely see it as a short story in a literary speculative magazine, so I liked reading something slightly different but still like in the same wheelhouse from Becky Chambers. And yeah, like, this didn't just solidify like that I like adult sci-fi, that I like hope punk, but it also solidified that, you know, I'm just a big Becky Chambers fan. So I really enjoyed this, and I hope in the future that maybe she will either write, I don't know, I'd love to see like a fantasy novel from her, or a sci-fi fantasy mixed novel. And I feel like Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is her longest work to date, which was her first novel. So I would love to see another longer work from them, or maybe a short story collection would be really fun. I don't know, I just love Becky Chambers, and so this was like a great solid choice to put in the mix. There is always a little bit of risk factor because this story is not part of a series, it's not connected to any of her other work, but you know, it was a pretty safe bet, so I feel like it turned out pretty well. And yeah, it solidifies all the things that I like. I like sci-fi, I like this kind of introspective, character-driven sci-fi, I like short novellas. In terms of publisher, I feel like Harper Voyager, which this is published under, is a pretty good bet for me to choose from. And yeah, so I really enjoyed this, and now I have one last novel to read for this reading blog experience. I've read about 80% of Light from Uncommon Stars, and again, I really am liking it. It really feels in the same wheelhouse as like a Becky Chambers or like a Hank Green. Like, there is like a hopeful line through it. I would say this is like a little bit more mean, or like there is a little bit more harshness in the world in what is happening to the characters. Definitely trigger warnings for like a lot of stuff, but I would say most severely, like definitely a lot of transphobia, racism, but transphobia is like a big one. But there is like a little bit of hope in there as well, and like the found family elements, I guess. This is like a shifting perspective novel, shifting through the different characters and watching them grow closer, watching them have their relationships fall apart. And there's just so much working for me, especially like reading it in the format that I am with this great audiobook narrator. Like, I just am enjoying following these stories. The other thing I love about this, it takes place in like the Orange County, LA area, which is, you know, where I grew up. And so I love seeing so many like references to things that, you know, I grew up around, cities, locations, food joints, history, you know, not all of it I knew, but like a lot of it. And I just like, you know, I think that's a really great texture. There's a lot of really great setting stuff in here. It's set in like our contemporary Southern California world, but like you can really tell the author grew up here and just loves this area. There is like a lot of like community stuff in there as well that I really like how it's being used as like a context for the world. But the one thing I will say is that Katrina, one of our main characters, she likes to do video game and anime music, and she has awful taste in animes. I am so sorry. Like, alluded to like 3-4 animes I believe at this point, and I am like, girl, you were just naming off like the worst animes. Like, oh my god, we have different tastes. But overall, it's just a really fun ride, and there's just so many elements that I really like in this story. It's just, I don't know, it's really enjoyable. So we have finally reached the end of my reading stats vlog, as well as maybe wrapping up this series, which means I finished Light from Uncommon Stars, and I loved this. It was so good. I'm thinking like a 4.25, 4.5, 4 stars, somewhere in there. Like, there were definitely moments that I wish were fleshed out a little bit more, but that's only because I really liked the characters, I really liked the world. It was just fun and weird and just a really big delight to read. And again, it just fits into everything that made up my favorite books of the year last year. It was adult, it was sci-fi fantasy, it had queer elements, it had like a little bit of a literary speculative element in there as well. It had like more of the introspective, character-driven type sci-fi fantasy story than like an adventure sci-fi fantasy. But again, it's not just all of those elements. It was also like stats that we were looking at, adult, sci-fi, the publisher, the page count. I think that's why a lot of these books were successes, because I used all of the stats, numerical stats. I was trying to pick books that were like comparable to books I liked and put up as my favorite books of last year, and was really thinking not just about the statistic parts, but also like why I liked those books, what were the elements I liked about those books, and trying to find, again, comparable titles that had not just those stats, but those kind of vibes that I was looking for as well. And I tried to do that with my overall statistics as well. I was trying to pick titles where it wasn't just fitting into the stats, it was fitting into things that I had on my physical TBR, as well as things that were fitting into the vibe of what I enjoyed last year. But this was definitely a lot more successful than the last video. We have like a 4 to like a 4.5 stars, possibly on my favorites of the year, like a 4.5, 5 stars, again, on my favorites of the year, most likely. This one wasn't quite as successful. It's like a 3.75, 4 stars. It's not my favorite in the series, but it was still a really strong contender in the series. So again, really successful. And then Light from Uncommon Stars, it's like a 4, 4.25. Could possibly end up on my favorites of the year, depending on how the rest of the year goes. But it's definitely a book that I'm thinking about a lot. It was definitely just like really fun and memorable. And it also made me want to eat donuts like so bad. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's sci-fi fantasy mostly. It's a couple novellas, a couple longer works. It's almost all queer. Actually, yeah, it's pretty much all queer. It's mostly from publishers that I really like and admire. It's from a couple authors that I really like and admire. Obviously, it could have gone wrong, but all in all, like, there wasn't as many risks taken on this video as there were maybe in the last one. Still really enjoyed everything that I read for my overall reading stats. But yeah, like, it's safe to say, like, reading statistics, they're a great way to find more books that you will enjoy, but using reading stats of my favorite books is definitely going to get better results, because those are the books that really represented me of 2022 and like what kind of books that I was enjoying and what kind of books I want to enjoy in the future. And like, that's obvious, it makes sense. Is there really anything to pull out of this video? I don't know, but overall this was a really good experience. It got me to pick up things that I really enjoyed, but also things that have been on my TBR for a while that I've been really interested in. And it's really good to know that like the books that I'm looking towards, the books that I'm excited about, the books I have on my TBR are things that I'm interested in. Sometimes because of my critiques, it feels like I don't like sci-fi fantasy adult stuff as much as I say I do, but like this proves like this is the kind of stuff I like. I know what I like, and I'm gonna continue to read in that sphere because I'm finding what I really like. I finished this, have read all of Becky Chambers' works now, caught up on a series I love, and found a couple new authors where I want to read everything that they write in the future, as well as I want to read this series. So yeah, some new faves, some surprises. This was just a really good reading vlog for me. And I think the only thing I'm looking to expand towards in the future with my reading stats is to read more widely of page count, honestly. I'm so surprised that like my favorites always are like novellas and then like that 300 to 400 page count range. I think that's just like what a lot of books tend to be put as, but I want to not be scared of those larger tomes, to read more of those larger tomes. But yeah, I don't think I have a lot more to say about it, except I read a lot of great books and this was really fun. I don't know if it told me anything new, but it was fun. But thank you so much for watching. The algorithm is not a friend to small creators, so any likes, subscribes, all of that really, really helps. And comments, I personally really would love to talk with you all. I really like interacting with people. I find it hard, but I do enjoy it. Any of that, very much appreciated. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.